Well, hello and welcome. There's a book entitled Ghana, the UP-MPP Tradition in National Politics, the Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo Factor. I'm sure you are even intrigued to find out what's in this book. Well, it's written by no other than Professor H.P. Matheson, and he tries to stay in the middle and lay history as clear as possible. Now, I want to find out if there's any such thing as clear history. So don't move at all. My name is Nana Sakwal the Fourth, Akufo-Addo, and your favorite TV show host. Stay tuned. We're coming straight back. Welcome back. Thank you very much for staying. The UP-MPP Tradition in National Politics, the Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo Factor. In my opinion, it must be the best birthday present for anyone. I mean, I saw birthday pictures with him and his family and a big cake full of cholesterol. This is the best birthday present. We left for posterity to come and read and get historical facts as to how Ghana got where it is. And this is written by no other than Professor H.P. Matheson, who's in studio with me today. Prof, thank you very much for coming.
It's my pleasure.
And on the behalf of the president, I'm saying thank you for this book.
Once more, it's my pleasure. Thank you.
Bro, but before we go into this book, I think I want us to clear something, and I will launch into this book because this book will contain history.
Precisely.
Prof, at every given time in history, there are opinions and divided thought, even though they may, come as one. And let me take Ghana, for instance. Once upon a time, we all wanted independence. It was clear. We didn't want to be ruled by the white man. As we start forming unions and groups and parties, ideas then change. Some will say, I want independence now. Some will say, I want it later. Others will say, I want to lead it. The others will say, no, I want to follow. And so there will be breakups. So one central factor is that, yes, we want independence. But how to achieve it changes. So when history is being written, it will be written from the perspective that, well, we wanted it later, they wanted it now, and I thought later was better. No, I thought now was better. So it will be difficult to say, look, we have one history. It will have so many dimensions. Wouldn't you agree with me?
Certainly.
So I'm just trying to find out, on the basis of that, how would we know that, this history is not being written from your point of view because you believe in this, or that person's point of view because he believes in that?
Good. Thank you once more, Nana. In documenting political history, it is vitally important that he who is writing, he who is researching, make sure that in his or her presentation there is that reference, or either reference of archival studies, reference of where you heard it from, and so on and so forth. It is not anthology. Take, for instance, as you just asked, this idea of who first started looking forward for getting independence from the colonial master from Mother Ghana. Yes, names like that of Osajefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, names like J.B. Dankwa, Professor K. Buzia, and the rest of them have been bandied here and there. But then, within the limits of historical antecedents, books have been written, research papers have been presented, and there are references. Take, for instance, the idea of who is a founder, who is a nationalist, who is a statesman. Whether you, the historian, you are presenting semantically, etymologically, lexicologically, or whatever process is left to you at the end of your presentation. Make sure that you at least put a reference. Good. Now, Ghana, our beloved Ghana, first and foremost at Gold Coast. Before independence, there were so many political parties, so many pressure groups. Now, if you come to major political parties as the UP or United Party, CPP, Convention People's Party, all these are offshoots, are zygotes of parties or bodies like that of the Aborigines Rights Protection Society, of Jacob Say, of 4th August 1897. Then also, before Jacob Say, we had the Family Confederation of the Chief of Mankasim, Gate IV, between 1868 and 1872. Then, 1920, we have Kesley Hayford West African Association. 1930, we had J.B. Dankwa Youth Movement. 1930. Then, before the formation of the UGCC, J.B. Dankwa had established this youth movement. Now, the question here is, Nana, as you and I will wish to agree with one another, the question of who owns UGCC, who established UGCC, there is no denying the fact that in one of my books, Nana, which is before you here, which was published 2010, page 110 of this book, it was no other person than Chief Alfred Grant, otherwise known as Pa Grant, who invited Dr. J.B. Dankwa precisely on 17 July 1947 to write a letter insinuating that, yes, I, Pa Grant, or George Alfred Grant, have just come from Europe. I've made money, and I've licensed a shipping boat known as SS Asini, which was licensed in 1920. So it is now time for the Gold Coast to get into politics. Politics should be indigenized. So J.B. Dankwa was asked, advised to write a letter to the most senior Gold Coaster, the most senior intellectual in the Gold Coast, by that time known as Dr. F.V. Nankabrus, and copied to 21 others. Justice Edward Akufo-Addo, that is our current president's father, was copied. Emmanuel Odakwe Obechebe Lamte, the late Otanka Jake's father, was copied. Ben Tamakulu was copied. Ali Pasoya was copied. And at least after Akila Pasoya and the rest, 21 of them were copied. And they were invited to meet at Roger Club in Gamashi here. That was precisely on 17th of July, 1947. And it was there that the birth of UGCC was born. UGCC born, headquartered at Salt Pond, under fiat and instrumentality of no other person than Pa Grant. So the idea of J.B. Dankwa, established J.B. Dankwa was the scribe, was the secretary. But the chairman and the founder was no other person than Pa Grant. Yes, the other 21 members could be co-founders. So here, symbolically, we've seen a founder. Now coming back to UP, because our book is UP MPP in national politics, the Akufo-Addo factor. Nana, before you ask, what does UP represent? UP means United Party. And for the youth, it is you in the media, Nana, and we in the academia to come together to make sure that we repackage, re-sanitize, rebrand to market the actual political history of Madagascar. in the 21st century.
And you think it's possible?
It is possible. So far as academics, the media, we put away our various political ideologies, not to write anything or say something verbatim to please politicians. Say it is as it is. So coming back to UP, UP, United Party, is an amalgam, is a collection of so many political orphans, so many pressure groups who came together to form UP. And why so? Nana, you may recall, as late back as 3rd August 1957, 3rd August 1956, as late back as 3rd August 1956, Nkrumah tabled a motion in the then Legislative Assembly, President Parliament, that there should not be any political party based on tribe, based on religion, and he called it, or he named it, the Non-Avoidance of Discrimination Act. So on the basis of this, all political groupings in opposition to Nkrumah's CPP were gingerly forced to come into a political coalition, a political amalgam, so as to fight Nkrumah in the subsequent, elections. So UP is an amalgam of the National Liberation Movement, the Northern People's Party, the GCP, the Ghana Congress Party of Dr. J.B. Danquah. Now, permit me to make a pause here and emphasize on something. Many a Ghanaian intellectual or media man will ask reservedly, GCP, Ghana Congress Party, we will never heard it. Yes, it's there. Ghana Congress Party, those who may wish to disagree to agree with us, should look out for the daily graphic of 4th August 1952, page 3 at Brekum. J.B. Danquah insinuates that Nkrumah fears his Ghana Congress Party. So come 1954 elections, we shall beat Nkrumah and his CPP. Again, August 9th, 1952, front page, Nkrumah asked all people on UGCC to cross over. J.B. Danquah asked all people on UGCC to cross over to his newly formed political party, GCP or Ghana Congress Party. And that was precisely on August 9th, 1952. My reference, daily graphic, front page. Again, my reference, the same daily graphic. January 3rd, 1953 to January 5th, 1953. Emmanuel Odakwe Obechebi Lamte asked all members who are still with the UGCC to cross over to join their newly born party, GCP, under the chairmanship of Dr. J.B. Danquah. And this was at Roger Club, Gamanshi. I think AMA will tell us where Roger Club was. So this is the existence of the Ghana Congress Party. Again, if you look at my book, page 109, you will come to appreciate that Sakishek, who was the General Secretary, J.B. Danquah, the chairman of GCP, Ni Ama Olenu, the vice chair, Sakishek, then MP for Segundi Tekuradi, as the General Secretary. And then A.A. Chambers, Rajala Sanchamba, that is Ibn Chambers' father, who was the Northern Territories representative of the Ghana Congress Party. They came into a political amalgam. Again, that is Ghana Congress Party. Came into a political amalgam, a political fusion of the MPP, Northern People's Party, of Mumuni Baumia, S.D. Dombo, Mumuni Dumbe, Mumuni Kore, and E.F. Deremano of the Northern People's Party. And that was precisely on 30th May 1954, a Sunday. And the document of affiliation was signed, Tamal. This document of affiliation, the original copy, will be found correctly embedded.
Prof, how does that give us one history? I mean, because the UP tradition, people saw history in a different light. The CPPs saw the history in a different light, and so their accounts differ.
And that is why I said earlier, before you take the presentation of an academic or a journalist, ask for the reference. In academia, I will not say something out of vacuum. That's my reference. And so this is where reference is very, very important. The UP was established 3rd November 1957 in Gamashi. Here again, Nana, you hear senior academics, professors. Pabini, with due respect, UP was established in Kumasi. Some go to say Chebi, Ujebi Dankwa. I wish to say no, and indeed I'm saying the no. With due respect to my senior colleagues, UPism, that is United Party, as I stipulated earlier, is an amalgam of all these political parties with options.
What do you trace the genesis?
The genesis of UPism is a symbolism of the amalgam of all the political parties in opposition to the CPP since Nkrumah tabled the Non-Avoidance and Discrimination Act precisely on 3rd August 1956. So, UP came into being in Gamashi. It was more or less brought up here by these very people, including TCP, Togoland Congress Party of SG Anto and Kojaeke. Now, Nana, let me intellectually somersault here. Here is a case. Dombo, Dankwa, Buzia, Dombo tradition. Here is the Volta side of Senior Gatro Anto, aka SG Anto, and his partner, Kojo Ayeke. These were two vanguards in the anti-Nkrumahist, fight. And they took positions in all the fights against Nkrumah CPP in the establishment of the UP. Now, no one hears of SG Anto. No one hears of the contribution of the Volta side. Does it mean that their contribution was marginal or they have been marginalized? I leave it to politicians. I'm not in politics. I'm only inquiring to know as an academic. Now, coming back to UP. UP was gingerly anchored, fully established as a political party. And that was November 3rd, 1957. I insist. So people who will come to tell you that, the first general elections, 8th February 1951, second general elections, 17 June 54, third general elections, apart from the voter, elections. 17 July 1956. My father, my uncle stood on the ticket of UP. I say no. There was no political party in the Gold Coast or in Ghana known as UP by that time. All these three elections. No political party. UP came into being 3rd November 1957. Those who may wish to disagree to agree with us. Our reference, Ashanti Pioneer, I insist, our reference, Ashanti Pioneer, serial number 5612 of 5th November 1957, front page. And in this, in the launch of this political party known as UP, the person who was the chair of operations was Ashinikwe from Gamashi, then chairman of Producers Association, Cocoa Producers Association. Ashinikwe was the chairman of the occasion. And then the person who was chosen as the first official national chairman was Dr. John Hunter Mills, not J.B. Danko. I insist.
Of UP.
Dr. John Hunter Mills. R.R. Amponsa was the general secretary. And Mrs. Nancy Tibu from the mountains was the national treasurer. J.B. Dankwa, Professor K. Buzia, they were nowhere to be found in these grounds. Please quote me. But the National Liberation Movement Chief Balfour Akufo-Addo was physically present, very active, and the slogan he coded was UP up, CPP down, coded by Balfour Akufo-Addo. And he was the one who raised the hand of Dr. John Hunter Mills as the chairman. But Dr. J.B. Dankwa is very prominent and has done a lot. Get me right, fellow listeners and viewers. Nana, J.B. Dankwa was the only person very bold to come forward in the 1960 presidential elections. I will contest against Nkrumah. I'm a Barryman. I'm a man. Dr. John Hunter Mills and the rest of them faded away. And so J.B. Dankwa contested, even though, unfortunately, he lost the election of 1960. But he carried the UP physically, politically, and otherwise till his death. May he rest in peace. 4 February 1965, 6:20 a.m. according to the autopsy. Carried out by Dr. Negovich and Professor Sai, F.T. Sai or Frederick Togbo Sai. He was in charge of the Nsawam prisons. Cell number 9. So Nana, this is UP for you.
I see. So because of the role he played as in flag bearership, he seems to be catapulted into the founder father.
Precisely. And to be very, very frank, he was bold, he did a lot. He put up his life. Come what may, he will fight Nkrumah. And indeed, he did, symbolically.
The MPP, as in the Northern People's Party, and the UP, what the differences? Similar? Were they close? What was the relationship?
Now, this is a very good question. It's a very good question. And all this can be found in this book in front of you. That is Ghana, the UP/MPP in national politics, the Akufo-Addo factor. The Northern People's Party of Mumuni Bawumia was the first and only unique party in the North. In the sense that CPP, yes, was founded, but CPP had not won in each year. During the 1951 elections, 54 elections. Whereas Simon Dombo, otherwise known as SD Dombo, had 12 chairs. That is 12 seats in parliament. Second to Nkrumah, 71.
It was a big difference.
But then, here is a case. Before I answer fully the MPP, that is Northern People's Party, Professor Kofi Aberefa-Buzia was not yet in parliament, was at the head of sociology department at Lagos. But he went to parliament as the 5th territorial member of Asantuma. There was no Brown Apple yet in 57. So SD Dombo, out of courtesy and respect for academia and old age, ceded his chair as the then opposition to Nkrumah. And here, Professor K. Buzia took over. Now coming back to MPP. MPP, Northern People's Party, was there before the establishment of UP. UP, as I stipulated, came after the establishment or the founding or the creation of the Avoidance of Discrimination Act, 3rd August 1957. So yes, MPP, that is Northern People's Party of Mumuni Bawumia, Mumuni Dumbiye, SD Dombo, and the rest of them, were in amalgam. to the UP. They were in amalgam first to the GCPP, the Ghana Congress Party of J.B. Dankwa, and that of National Liberation Movement of Akufo-Addo. But then, what J.B. Dankwa did to lay the MPP was to assist them in parliament so that the concept of federalism be achieved. But unfortunately, in the 54 general elections, J.B. Dankwa lost his seat in parliament to Aaron Oforiatta, his cousin, on the other side, that is the CPP.
Hold it there. I'm going to take a quick break to continue. And one aspect that will probably comes up in the book is the relationship between Dankwa Buzia, well, the Dankwa Buzia factor. And I wouldn't mind if Professor can chip in the Dombo aspect as well, so we have a full complement on this book. I told you it's the best birthday present His Excellency can get. Don't go. Thank you very much for staying, and it's getting exciting. Ghana, the UP MPP tradition in national politics, the Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo factor. And Prof, we're trying to look at the relationship Dankwa Buzia, probably Dombo.
Good. Here is the case of different political parties coming together to establish UP. And as I had an inquiry in the book, I more or less did a critique. Why is it not Dankwa, Dombo, Buzia, Gatra, Anto, that is Dadoba, D-A-D-O-B-E, D-A for Dankwa, D-O for Dombo, and then D-K-A, that is Anto. Because the other side had been marginalized. And to answer the question, why Dankwa, Dombo, Buzia? Dankwa, majority, of the party, that is the UP, trunk, GCP had established it. The National Liberation Movement, he was already there with Akufo-Addo. And then the Dombo, as you and I will establish, that is the Northern People's Party. Established as laid back as 11th April 1954. 11th April 1954. Now, the Buzia came in more or less like a fulfillment, in the sense that the UP tradition, J.B. Dankwa unfortunately had not occupied any presidential chair. But Buzia was the first from that department, that the Department of Opposition to Nkrumah, to have occupied, the presidential chair. Not that Buzia is representing, Ashantis or Akandis. No, there's no that. The only thing is he had been first to occupy the space there. And Dombo, of course, majority of, seats to Nkrumah. And Dombo cooperated in federalism and all that in parliament. He supported any bill tabled on behalf of, J.B. Dankwa and his group. And so that is why Dankwa, Dombo, Buzia, tradition. And as I said, at least Anto and his group should also be listened to. Otherwise, it will not be a fulfillment of the UP tradition.
Prof, your book talks about the Big Six, and if you listen to, we've been listening to your narrations, and so many names come up. And probably neither of the Big Six were even there at the genesis. So what's the comment on this Big Six?
The Big Six, we give them that respect, in the sense that they were opportune, quote and unquote, to have been around when the ex-servicemen had a problem with, the colonial administration. So here, the big six, that is 6 of them, rushed to Christianborg Castle, rode there, and then, they tried to establish or show solidarity with the ex-servicemen. And you remember, 20th February 1948, that is 8 days before the riot, J.B. Dankwa, in the presence of Nkrumah, had already met them at Jamestown, in Palladium Cinema.
Met the ex-servicemen.
And cautioned them, gave them advice. So, these people were opportune to have been there. Victor Uso and the rest of them, they were already practicing lawyers, but they were not around. Unfortunately, they were in Kumasi. S.D. Jumbo and the rest of them were in the north. Mrs. Nancy Chibu and the rest of them from the mountains, they were nowhere to be found. So all of them could have been opportune to be among the big 16, big 17, or whatever numbers might have been there. But because they were arrested and quarantined, that is imprisoned, so Gold Coasters showed that type of nationalistic solidarity behind them. And it was there, after the trial, that J.B. Dankwa had the naming, the doyen, that is the dean of Gold Coast politics, or chairman of Gold Coast politics. So this is the basics. There is nothing, special. There are many people who also had contributed. They could have been equally there. So Ghanaians should not feel that, once there was no Akan, there was no Ashanti, there was no Mamprisi, there was no Dagomba or no Ewe, they are not Ghanaians. Everyone born in Ghana. They're the fiat instrumentality of our country.
Also, why has history elevated them so much? Could it be that because they had worked maybe a lot harder behind the scenes?
Most of them were members of the Kusi Commission for Independence. Take it for instance. Joseph Abudu Brahma, a.k.a. J. Brahma, from the north. The first Northerner to be invited by the colonial administration to be a member of the Kusi Commission. He was not available. So he could not be christened or be labeled as a member of the Big Six. But that does not mean that there was no Northerner. J. Brahma was gingerly, in the forefront, a member of the Kusi Commission. And members who were of the Kusi Commission were not just chosen par
Again, in your book, you talk about foreign policy.
Precisely.
What foreign policy would be ideal for Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo?
Thank you very much, Nana. This is a very good question. We are lucky. Our current president had been a minister of foreign affairs. He understands diplomacy. He knows diplomacy. He has tried it. He has felt it. And since independence, the African foreign policy of Madagascar had been Pan-Africanism. And indeed, Nana, our president, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo, is a practicing Pan-Africanist. So you will not be anything. The only time we had difficulty was the time.
You wouldn't say he was that bourgeoisie, more pro-West rather than pro-Pan-African?
No, Nana is not that type of bourgeoisie, pro-Western. It's rather what I was trying to say. Nana, permit me to epitomize that. Permit me to epitomize that. During the Second Republic, Professor Kofi Abarefa-Buzia, being an academic and intellectual, a prime minister, a president for that matter, because by that time there was a prime minister, with a non-executive president in the name of, Justice Edward Akufo-Addo, refused to practice that fiat and instrumentality of our African foreign policy Pan-Africanism. And so for 27 months, Busia was in the chair. It was only due to the bravado, the savoir-faire, the savoir-vivre, that is the savvy, as you media people will say, the savvy of Victor Wusu, that Ghana survived. And he had a very radical also diplomat. That is our former president, Akufo-Addo, who represented Busia in all OAU meetings, did all across the globe, from Lusaka to, Harare, to Moscow, that is to patch up. Have that pacta concordata of nations. And that is why we survived during the Busia time. In any case, now, the time of, Akufo-Addo, Pan-Africanism was practiced, or the UP tradition.
But one would say for 2017, Nana Addo being a president, will Pan-Africanism foreign policy, is it relevant today?
Very, very relevant. And that is why some of us want to give a cautious advice to our president. Not to listen to people like Tony Blair and all coming here. They have nothing to give Ghana. Tony Blair is a failure vis-a-vis foreign policy. What happened in Iraq? What happened in his own country? It's just like, unfortunately, during the time of Busia. By that time, 69, Busia's time, 69, 72, 70, 71, Great Britain, United Kingdom was with cap in front of IMF looking for aid. So what has Tony Blair got to advise our president? Our president should be forward-looking. He is already a brand of Pan-Africanism. He should gingerly tilt towards Pan-Africanism, just as Akufo-Addo.
Tony Blair may have made his mistakes or
Made
his mistakes, a judgment call, sending troops to war that never was. But generally, he understands the sign of the times. And, we can't go back to being protectionist and, we are Africans. Now it's a global village.
No, let me come in. Who represents UK here? There's a High Commissioner.
Yeah.
What is the behavior of the High Commissioner in Ghana here? More or less like a schoolmaster, which is not in consonance his behavior. The British High Commissioner's behavior is not in consonance with the Geneva Convention. And I'm talking as an old diplomat of the Ghana mission. I'm a former Ghanaian diplomat. So we are advising, our president cautiously to steer far away from those guys. They have nothing to give. And he should gingerly, hold fast
not to take
the concept of Pan-Africanism.
Not to take too much time, but as a High Commissioner, aren't you allowed to comment on some social media
Surely,
stuff?
Nana, you are allowed to comment. What has High Commissioner got to do with going to the police headquarters to deliver lectures? Going to the military barracks to deliver lectures? Is he a school headmaster? That period of colonialism is past. In any case, I am speaking...
Even on invitation, he's not allowed?
If he's given an invitation, he has got his limits of interaction.
That's...
And his speech, whatever he says, should be in consonance with the spirit and theater instrumentality of the Geneva Convention. Who molds diplomats? What you should say. But a British High Commissioner should not come and tell us, do this, we should not do that. He is not the schoolmaster. And permit me, Nana, I'm talking as someone who has been in foreign mission, and I'm talking as a senior citizen. I'm 72 years of age. 10th March 2017 was my birthday. So I'm speaking to that young man.
Post-elections, what are your analysis?
Post-elections? Nana?
Post-2016 elections.
What every well-meaning Ghanaian, irrespective of your political background, whether you are NDC, CPP, or MPP, please, we pray for our current president, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa to succeed. If he succeeds, Ghana succeeds. But, I say but, the so-called Delta forces, the so-called invisible forces should be cautioned, advised to stay behind and allow the official security services to deal with affairs so as to assist our president to have a fruitful and successful 4-year mandate so that we will all be citizens but not spectators.
You think it will come from the top? Shouldn't it be a police hierarchy business?
It should come from the top. Mr. President, one, is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. He's the face of Madagascar. He's the voice of Madagascar. What he says is final. And Mr. President says today, Nana, 5 o'clock, me and you should sleep, we will sleep. No question. But Delta Force could be strong in MPP, but not Ghana. There could be security in the MPP, but not Ghana. So it is only Mr. President who can solve it by telling them the bitter truth. And Mr. President has to let them know that period he was leader of MPP. He's now a father of Ghana, including you, Nana, including me, and everyone. Not only people with Delta Force or invisible forces.
I know we touched on it with regards to history and the point of view it comes from, but trying to project so that whether you read from A and you read from B, there should be a point where we all meet, because those were facts that happened. But what would be the government's role in ensuring that academia, media, have one history to tell?
Good. All that Mr. President should do is to see to it that the Ministry of Education commissions historians to rewrite Professor Nana Konwa Eslifi. He's a very prolific writer. My old man, Professor Adofeni, is still around. So all that we could do here is to see to it that this thing, the political history of Madagascar is rewritten. And also, Mr. President too should not be shy to heighten certain historical facts. Like the other time, in my presentation to you, Nana, you interviewed me in one of your interviews with me. How many Ghanaians are aware that His Excellency's father, that is Justice Dr. Edward Akufo-Addo, had the only African, 1934 in Oxford, who had combined mathematics with law and philosophy. And he was standing. And that is why 28th April 1971, he was given a special citation by Lord Durham in Oxford. This is not highlighted. Mr. President's own auntie, that is the mother's junior sister, Dr. Mrs. Susan de Graaf Johnson, was among the first female medical officers. What has been named after her? Mary Grant, Mrs. Mary Grant. What has been named after her? Even Madame Kufo, the first nursing sister with our Cocoa clinic, for 30-something years. How many Ghanaians are aware? So these are some of these things Mr. President should try. But not for us to put, structures, bearing the names of bomb thrower, so and so cycle, because the person is among the basics. But he are being vindicated to be, more or less bomb throwing. Take the case of 21st September 1962, Lucas House. A bomb thrown by that same member of Big Six. 8 girls, their intestines gushing out. My reference, Daily Graphic, 22nd September 1962, front page.
Terrible. Terrible. Maybe an unfair question, but all in your book.
Feel free.
It's barely 100 days yet, but you know, they say agrobeso if you're yeah, the game is going to be nice. You see it in the morning. You think the president will succeed? Yes or no?
Nana,
very unfair question.
No, it's okay. Nana, you and I were in the media and academia. It was as late back as 1954. Moise Dayan, that is Israeli Prime Minister, a soldier who they never thought he would win the elections, contested elections. So when they asked him a question, General Moise Dayan, you have won elections, are you sure you will succeed? His answer was, provided the media and academia leave me free, I will succeed. So, if the media and academia should leave Mr. President free and then positively, you know, assist him, he will be a good citizen, not a spectator. Is my answer.
But we can't leave him free. We need to hold him by the reins and keep a short leash. Judging from historical antecedents, we can't let him loose.
Leaving him free, for instance, Delta Force misbehaving, permit me from my language, he has to bring them to book. Invisible forces misbehaving, he has to bring them to book. But when I say leave him free, when he is going wrong, don't sit back to say that, oh, it's not my political party. Give him the necessary advice. He may take it or he may leave it. And also, Mr. President also has to do the right thing. The right thing is, you know, he is an art scholar, a lawyer, an art scholar. This is the time a country cannot go positive if they don't know their history. Indeed, my plea to Mr. President is the rewriting, the rebranding, and the re-strategizing of our political history for our children, our grandchildren, and for eternity. And more so, Nana, sorry to really come, more so, our parliamentarians. They need to know the political history of Ghana, not even necessarily their political parties.
Prof, why this book now?
The book now in the sense that I believe this should be the opportune time in the sense that many a time we confuse UP, that is United Party, with the UGCC. People confuse UGCC with the National Liberation Movement. And as I said in my presentation, how many Ghanaians are aware that the first political party J.B. Dankwa established in the Gold Coast, present-day Ghana, was the Ghana Congress Party as late back as 1952. So UP came subsidiary. So now Mr. President is coming from that quote-unquote tradition. So at least this book should be lying now to assist our parliamentarians, our students, our youth, and even the international organizations in Ghana and the international community at large coming to Ghana should know our political history. And if I may chip in, Nana, in this book, even though it's not part of your question, in this book, many a politician in the parliament today would sit down to say that, oh, why the North is so backward? Why Volta region is so backward? Why this one is so backward? No, because that person saying is so myopic about his own history. Since 1756, in the southern part here, the coastal lines, education was already there. Kwekus, primary school, Cape Coast. The first primary school in the north, 1909, 144 years, no primary school, no education. The first secondary school in the south, 1876, Mfansipi. In the north, 1951, my alma mater, Damascus. 75 years, no secondary school. 1951 general elections, 8 February 50, we had only 4 senior civil servants being ordinance. The former president, our former president, John Dramani Mahama, was born 29th November, right? 1958. At this point in time, there was not a single university graduate from the north. The only university graduate we had 57 was Alassane Banzaba if you may recall, Susan Alasan, that is the first woman minister in Ghana, the husband, he died through a motor accident, so no graduate. How can you compare such a part of the country to develop? And again, 1900, 1932, the draconian direct rule by the colonial administration was there. No Northerner could come here to be scholarized, to school. They would look out for your parents and surcharge you. Northerners were meant for only the armed forces, for only the police, and then coming to do menial jobs in the cocoa farms for cocoa to be exported. And that is why in 1911, because of the mass exportation of Northerners to the cocoa farms, Ghana had the first experience of being world #1 cocoa and £6 million sterling exports of cocoa because of the infusion of Northerners to come and work in the cocoa farms. So how can there be equal development? And so this is why in this book I've established how Great Britain underdeveloped the North. How Great Britain underdeveloped the North.
Well, I'm sure by this time you are eager to find out where you can grab yourself a copy. The UP-MPP Tradition in National Politics, the Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo Factor. Intriguing, exciting, the best birthday present anyone can ever have. But contact me and I will point a finger in the right direction as to where you can get the book. It will be on the market very, very soon. Prof, all too soon, that's what time allows us. But doesn't time fly when you are enjoying yourself? I want to say thank you very much. And to all Ghanaians, let us find and seek the truth and report it. No matter how painful it is, no matter where your ideologies are, let the facts be the facts so that when posterity reads it, they know exactly where we came from. At least it will guide them as to where they're going. My name is Anan Sakwao. Thank you very much for watching.